Welcome along. Monday, 6 p.m, our new weekly slot. Big thanks to Simon and I joining each other.
Yeah, happy Monday.
Yeah, happy Monday. Wow, what a US PGA Championship.
Great, wasn't it? It was, I think, until hole 16, nip and tuck. I think it's always the thing, majors, best players together, best courses, you always get the cream rising to the top.
Yeah.
And the best club pros. Great story.
Hold that thought 1 second. Gonna flick that on.
Oh, we're going techers.
Yeah, no, we're all good. We're all good.
Yeah.
We're all good. Wonderful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what a story.
I mean, two big stories, right?
Yeah.
The Club Pro and Brooks. Obviously, anyone asking questions, we've got the chat up in front of us, so we can answer anything that you have.
Afternoon, Mr. Hurley.
Yeah, stays in. Yeah, I mean, two great stories. I mean, as a PGA professional myself, I think people don't appreciate that. I mean, they sold the story as he's a teaching pro. Well, let me tell you, he might give a couple of lessons along the line, but he's spending the lion's share of his time hitting golf balls.
He's played some like 24 PGA Tour events.
Yeah, exactly. So he's not your common or garden range golf coach. He's a very well-established player, and I think that sometimes that gets a little bit lost in translation. Obviously, I know it's a great story to pitch out there, but I think that's always important to take into consideration. And the Brooks Koepka, well, of course, it's live golf against PGA Tour, and that dynamic, and hopefully it feels like the more people see that these guys are still the same golfers, and they can still compete, whether they're playing 3 rounds, 2 rounds, 4 rounds, 1 round, standing on their head. They're still spectacular golfers, and I think it was a good shot in the arm for trying to get everyone together again, because the PGA Tour are going to have to start to back down off of them and us. We're better players. Live Tour players. Imagine if they own 4 of the tour events, the majors. The PGA would be in a slightly tricky situation. Yeah,
I think there are two takeaways from it. One, going to go back to the Michael Block bit, I think for golfers out there, it shows actually someone who's not a bomber. He's got a 155, 160 mile an hour ball speed. That's up there with a lot of amateur golfers can achieve the same ball speed, yet competed on a long, tough US Open style course. So I think that's something to take away and look at maybe the way he managed his game around there. And no, we're not going to try and recreate his chip shot on pitch shot on 18, because that would be impossible. Too good. But I think also, getting all the golfers together, it just shows that when you get the full quality fields together, it's elevated. It's a major, so it is anyway. But I think seeing Hovland, Koepka, Scheffler coming through, those guys, just particularly Hovland and Koepka in the last group, just going toe to toe until the 16th. Just what a spectacle. But I would predict Koepka's going to tear up now. He's I think the other golfers will be worried that he's back to where he was in 2018, 2019, because he was unbeatable then, and he just looks great. So
I think the popularity's gone up with Brooks Koepka, showing that vulnerability in the Netflix series. So really exciting. We'll talk a little bit more maybe about Brooks later on. Want to get straight into the questions, because it's so lovely to have the interaction with you all out there.
Do you like the team name? Very good.
We'll start off with Dave. Obviously, hi Dave, nice to have you with us. A real good supporter of the PG channel. Thanks, Dave, and to everyone that supports it. Stu says, hi guys, what is the cut length of a 7-iron shaft if its playing length is 37 inches long, so standard length?
It varies a little bit depending on the club head, because you get different hosel lengths. So the shaft length itself is going to be around about 35.5 inches. I'm taking a bit of an educated guess onto that one, but it does vary. And if you go to some of the heads that had like a through bore, they're going to be longer than something with a long hosel blade Mura style. So it can vary by as much as an inch, but always just go off cut length, because you can get it horribly wrong if you try and guesstimate hosel lengths, things like that, because bore depths are different head to head. So that would be one where just go off playing length. That's the safer bet. And then just the second one, this will probably be for you a little bit. Steep angle, this Stu again. Steep angle attack with the 7-iron, 7 degrees down. Does that need a thicker sole? Most tour pros use thinner soles and are about 5 degrees. but I'm told a steep swing needs thicker soles.
This is a really great question, actually. Go ahead where you stand.
There are two elements to it.
Yeah.
Because we did a little bit about angle attack last week, which I think is where you might be going with that one. But it also depends on, actually there are different sole shapes. So someone like Koepka is fairly strong. You've got a strong lead into it. And the Strixon heads have a little bit of a beveled sole, particularly for that reason. But they're not necessarily, the ZX7s that he's using aren't a wide sole. It doesn't have to be wide sole. You just don't want a sharp leading edge. The softer turf you play off, a little bit more width might help. But from a design point of view, I won't go long on this question. From a design point of view, wide means weight back, and that might not suit you if you're steep. So there's a centre of gravity element to that as well that needs to take into account.
I think, let me just grab a club here. You think about...
Get rid of my horrible glove.
That's right. I think when you think about angles of attack and is the camera that is being displayed the one that we are... Perfect. So the angle of attack for most golfers see this angle being steep. You can have an angle of attack that's steep and coming in early to the golf ball, and you can have an angle of attack coming in steep but late to the golf ball. It just depends where the bottom of the swing is. So the angle can still be down, but if it's down before it or down after it, your contact point on the club face itself will either go from low to high. So if you're striking it low on the blade, effectively you're almost getting no benefit from a sole plate. You strike it high on the face, the sole plate is going to have more chance to have interaction with the ground. So it really depends on how you're producing the angle of attack, whether you are actually creating an angle of attack that's very late and you're hitting down, or whether you're creating that angle of attack that's very early and hitting down. So it really depends on how those interactions with the ground occur. And then backing up with the strike point on the face, whether it's low or high. But if you're 7 down and low strike point on the face, your low point of your golf swing is beyond the golf ball. And for that, I think you could probably even get away with adding 20 degrees of sole plate, because it's really not going to make too much difference. So it'd just be cautious with these sweeping statements, isn't it? It's so difficult. I mean, we what you guys do and what I do, it's not one size fits all. So it's very, very difficult to round up an answer of something that Stu's put in there with real detail that's going to fit Stu. Words don't do it justice. And I think part of what James on drums has put together with the Zoom call is we could move this into a place where if you've got a video camera and you're hitting some shots, we have the opportunity to start to drag you up, get you up on the screen, hitting some shots and demonstrating what you're doing. We almost have more insight, and that will give us a little bit more opportunity to be a bit more detailed to answering the questions that you're throwing at us. So just be cautious that we give our very best intent of answering these questions. But of course, a lot of the time, we don't know the parameters that you're swinging in. And a lot of the time, you won't either, because you probably haven't got a TrackMan.
Yeah, so if it sounds like we avoid an answer, it's probably because we don't want to commit to something that might cause more damage.
More harm than good.
There is another question, but I'll come back to it with Neil about the limited budget and fitting, and we'll come back to that because we've got a guest online.
Brilliant.
I'm going to put the earpiece in. So we've got Preston Toulon from Mitsubishi Shafts, MRC, and part of the reason for this, we've known Preston for a couple of years, but also Brooks Koepka was playing Mitsubishi Shafts this weekend. So it'd be good to get a little bit of insight from Preston on some of the technology that goes into the composites and the designs. We won't go too deep on things, but we thought it'd be a good opportunity to bring him in, which hopefully he can hear us.
Yeah, I got you, Simon Stewart. Can you guys hear me all right?
That's good. It's marginally echoey, but I can get it.
Okay, we'll do our best. Yeah,
hello in California.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. It's nice to be with you both.
So we'll start off with what Brooks is playing. You know, in terms of he's playing actually not one of the most recent shafts in the limited series.
Yeah, that one was Diamante D Limited 70 TX. He's been in that for a little while. He's also messed around quite a bit with Diamante D Plus Limited and has had success with both. They're not extremely different shafts, but pretty nice, typical whiteboard profiles that people have come to know and love. That this Diamano Limited family has been pretty successful in the majors going back 4 or 5 years. That's its 8th major yesterday since 2018. So it's doing a lot on the biggest stages. It's been pretty awesome.
And of course, Tiger, some of those majors as well.
I'm not going to
what is it
say
that's made-
names.
Yeah.
I'm not allowed to say the names. You guys can.
And what is it that's made that, or what is it that makes a shaft successful on tour? And then how would you maybe kind of look at those shafts and take them into something more appropriate for a lower club speed, someone more kind of sort of an average amateur?
Absolutely. The what we find, the golfers that gravitate most towards whiteboards, people who really like that feel on the handle. What the D Limited and D Plus Limited series has been really successful with is for golfers that like to feel the handle very much, but also feel the stability down in the tip section and create speed in the midsection. So Diamana is always going to prioritize feel. Its main priority is creating that really smooth, really pleasing feel that's just communicated back to the golfer. But the names that have really come to enjoy D Limited on the biggest stages are the ones that really like feeling where that shaft is in their hands.
And from a developmental point of view, I mean, we spend time with you in Orlando at the trade show and to start to kind of hear from you guys what actually goes into the design process. But how Mitsubishi being a graphite composite manufacturer themselves, how does that give you an advantage with regard to some of the designs and what you can do with the products moving forwards?
We live on the cutting edge. We don't have to rely on materials outside our facility because we produce the raw materials. I think I said to you, Simon, even in Orlando, we actually make carbon fiber. Golf shafts is just one thing we happen to make with them, right? We make airplane wings. We make parts on the Mars rover, so like the material we used is used in millions and millions of different applications. So the huge advantage is just being able to take that material that we produce in-house and use it as our smart people as they see fit into the best possible combination of whatever's going to work for the most amount of golfers.
And with things like the Vanquish this year, the kind of lighter weight models, is that something, when there's been a start that again. There's a webinar that you did saying actually more ladies tour was a bit of I wouldn't necessarily a focus for it, but certainly an application where it's been particularly well received. Is that something where you're consciously kind of moving and growing into that market, or is that something that is a byproduct